Heard him, baby. Point him. Look at the size of that doe. That's not who I thought it was.
Dude, that's an old boy. This is my first archery buck right here.
Dude, that is
really.
Oh my gosh. Look at that blood trail. Oh, yes. I mean, so next year, when you say, I don't know if I want to check cameras. Really? Is it the right deer? All right. 3 in a row. Ooh. You start saying, I'm gonna trust you, I'm gonna trust you. I'm like, I don't know.
Front on this side because he had good mass, but his 3 wasn't as long, and his beam didn't look as long, but his mass was good. I kept looking at him, I'm like, man, he might be better than I initially thought.
All the weight of the world was on our shoulders, and this just means a lot to me. I couldn't be happier with this deer, and we just give God all the praise and all the glory because.
Oh, even better.
All right, we'll see ya.
See ya.
50 just was trauma. It expanded really well.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
$3.
One day,
same tree.
Same tree.
Oh my God, I'm so
Woo!
Holy shit! Get a shot of these.
2 farms this year. Number 1 is done.
Did you say bye, Kevin?
I did. I already did. Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin. Bye, Kevin. Smoked it, buddy. Look at that. You destroyed it.
Joey takes
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers.
All right, guys. Episode 48 of the Deer Shop podcast. Today we are doing the hunting country deer portion of our latest series. Last week we had our most listened to episode, or I should say single day. It wasn't episode. It was just single day ever with the hunting city deer. This is the second part of it. Public deer will be next week, and then we'll have a reaction to it. Today we have 2 guys on with lots of experience hunting private land. They've also dabbled with some public land stuff, so we can definitely kind of talk about the back and forth on that. We have Nick Schlauch, who's one of our guys and has been on the podcast a few times, known for only targeting the larger deer in the group. Very outspoken. I'm sure he's going to have lots to say today. I'm looking forward to that. And then we have Matt Williams, Born Again Bowhunting podcast. He's been on once or twice at least.
Yeah.
And we've been on his podcast a few times, so check that out. Matt has been a door knocker for a long time now, hunting private land, and then just recently bought a farm of his own, so he'll be able to kind of give us some insight in that direction. And then obviously he hunts public land with us, and we've gone on a few trips together. But I figure we'll take a few moments just to kind of break the ice a little bit. We got Ethan with us here too. He's helping me host this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He can give his insight. He's got a little background, but
just a little bit.
So yeah, let's banter, guys.
Yeah.
What's going on? It's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot.
Yeah.
Summer. It's been the hottest week of the summer. It's been over 90, I think. Today was actually the coolest day, but
Yeah,
I feel like it. It's the hottest week that I can remember.
I think we broke records, honestly.
Yeah.
For heat, at least, heat index. And then also rain. We haven't had rain I know we got some rain today.
yeah,
But-
I sent you guys those Snapchats, but it rained for like that for about 10 minutes and it's already dry out there. And it did it like 2 or 3 different times, but
So anybody out there running food plots or anything, it's hurting right now. So
we are in the process of possibly getting a pump and some sprayer heads to use the pond to try to keep
Yeah.
some moisture on ours if we have to, if it doesn't rain a lot here in the next couple weeks.
Yeah,
I think it's supposed to rain a couple times this week, though.
Is it?
Yeah, on and off.
We just went like 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks of 90 degrees and no rain, so that really hurt. But yeah, hopefully we get some rain and some crops will pop up.
Yeah. Yeah, mine are looking good. I'm happy with them. 2 spring plots. So we didn't do anything on your farms this year. Did you do anything at your home farm?
I brush hogged it yesterday, but I mean, I don't know if I'll do anything. I don't hunt the food plots, so it's it's like rush around and plant them, and then I don't even hunt them. So
You should.
yeah, I mean, cameras say you should, but I don't know. I just never end up on them.
How many trees did you guys plant last year?
2,400
2,400 trees of what?
pine trees.
For cover?
No, for a tree farm, but a lot of them got smoked out last year just because we planted them in April, and then April was, well, these guys were at trail camp. It was 85 degrees, and then we didn't get any rain, so we had a lot to die just because we didn't get the rain. But so this fall we're going to be, we'll be replanting a bunch, but
We'll talk about, I have it listed here. There's a deer that kind of plays in our discussion later that you hunted on that farm for a long time, and we can talk about how, with the pressure around you and the neighbors and just how that farm has come and gone for, trophy hunting potential over the years. And now it's like you said, you're kind of on the back burner with it.
no.
I mean,
It's just a spot to put a camera now. I mean,
yeah.
I've got a few like that 5, 6, 10 years ago. I mean, it was nothing to get pictures of 160 plus, and now with just the amount of pressure from neighbors and the landowner allowing more people to hunt, man, it's like you said, it's just a spot to put a camera.
no.
Besides that doe that you killed last year, Nick, did you hunt it at all?
No,
Outside of a couple?
that was the only hunt.
Man.
Shot the doe and loaded up and never went back.
The fact that the 33 buck was dead kind of took some wind out of the sails over there.
Killed it. It killed it.
So, what do you guys think about this Iowa trail camera ban?
I don't think they know what's happening.
I don't
because-
think it's set in stone yet.
Yeah, they everybody was changing their tune end of last week or this week. There's mixed reports. I don't know. I wouldn't be that upset about it. I mean, if Ohio took actions to make hunting harder, I would be for it. But
100%.
So, but the problem is, everybody's got these cameras now. So
Yeah.
good luck actually enforcing
Yeah.
any type of restrictions.
Go ahead.
Well, I just think it's interesting, on public land, I can understand it. I can fully understand that. And I would actually be in favor of potentially all public land trail cameras, cell cams at least, being banned. But to try and say that it also applies to private property, but you're allowed to use it, you can still use cameras for security. So as long as it's like on a farm road or something, it's allowed to be there because it's for security. But
Well, there's too much gray area, because I think I was listening to a podcast last week, because this is the craze now about Iowa banning cell cams, and you're legally, according to this podcast, and once again, there's a lot of gray area, but according to this podcast, you can use the cameras, but you can't use them in the aid of hunting. And the aid of hunting is the definition of so they were saying that the Iowa DNR came out and said 24 hours or 48 hours. So, but what happens if you're sitting in the tree, that camera goes off, you're not necessarily looking at your phone, and then you kill that buck, and then you post on social media a picture of the buck just because you're happy that you shot it, and it's it's within 24 hours of you killing it, and then what?
I think they're going to hyper focus. If that's the case in the way the rule reads and the way it's going to be enforced, they're not going to care about Joe Blow who's doing it. They're going to hyper focus on Bomar.
You think they'll get one of the big guys?
Well, those big guys, if the rule, well, to expand out even more, apparently the rule's been this way. And they moved it in the regulations from where it was buried under surveillance.
They changed the wording, right?
And they moved it to the front page, by the way, you guys have all been doing this illegally, and this is the rule. So that's weird, because they said they didn't really change much. They just moved where it's at in the regulations so you can see it.
Yeah.
So that's...
Well, there's a lot of... the DNR has to do a better job of making it black and white for rules in general. Personally, I could care less if cell cameras got banned, I'm not one of them guys that like stares at my phone and just like waits for the opportunity. Yes, I have too many to count.
You got more than I do.
But the problem is, like, I don't hunt the cell camera. That's the thing. Like, yeah, a lot of guys bash on me because I have, 30-some cell cameras. But it's like, I don't sit on my phone and scroll and, like, I'm hunting here tonight. It's just a tool.
I enjoy them in the morning when I wake up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that first, like, especially during the fall or late summer, like, you get on there and that first initial
Mornings
scroll
are
is
good.
Yeah.
Or rut. Like, you're sitting on your couch watching football. It's, it's 8:30 at night, and then all of a sudden you get your target just smoking a scrape. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I get
or
you
like
jacked.
me last year, smoking the scrape at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
And you sit
Then
at the
you-
wrong.
I mean,
the wrong
you-
stand.
well, no, I missed him 4 hours later in front of that scrape.
yeah, you tried to hunt the trail cameras.
It
last
worked.
Well-
I messed it up.
The human factor.
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
And that's when I was down in the dumps because apparently, the buck I was hunting was dead, but then he wasn't dead. Whole-
That's really interesting, not to go back on the Iowa thing, but I did not think about, like, the juries and, the Lakoskis and stuff, because they always talk about, like, especially Mark Jury talks about stay out until the right time. So what's he waiting on? He's waiting for that pitcher, and then as soon as he gets that pitcher, he's going in, but now he can't do that.
Well,
According to Iowa law, right?
there is tons of YouTube and TV outfits that rely on that kind
Yeah.
of information. I mean, Mark Drury's managing 50 farms or whatever. He said, what, 50 farms. He loses a lot of bucks to neighbors, but he waits until a buck is killable, via the cell cameras. Now, a lot of their farms are in Missouri too, but it's just those guys are
crazy.
going to have to be ultra careful. Now, I'm not, I can't we can't say whether they're going to do it or not, but they better not let slip that,
Well, here's the thing, and you guys correct me if I'm just out in left field. I don't care if they enforce a law on public ground, but I don't think that they should be able to force a law on private, right?
No, I don't think so.
Isn't that like stepping over the line?
Look, game wardens can already do what they want. They can come on your property no matter what.
Well,
You don't have to be doing anything wrong. It's the same
Well,
law.
Yeah, but to tell you what you can and can't do with your own property?
I mean, why can't we kill deer in the summertime then?
Well,
it's our property.
I realize that, but you're not taking of game. You're not, you're just running a
well, that's
quote
like,
unquote, photography, you could argue.
Well, that's like states that don't allow baiting, Pennsylvania, Indiana. They sell a lot of corn in the feed
Oh, I know.
stores and at the gas stations. And at
That's
Walmart.
labeled deer corn.
Yeah, Walmart's weird. I remember we were on the Outer Banks 2 summers ago. Or was it last summer? Last summer. On the Outer Banks, and we went into a Walmart, and I was just curious. There is nowhere to hunt anywhere. I went to the outdoor section. They had bags of corn.
Deer corn.
They had cans of dough piss. They had everything. Like, who's buying this shit?
The people that rented our house because there's a buck
Yeah, that's true.
30 yards from the balcony.
That's true. That's true.
That's cool.
Well, I guess we can get into some stuff. Matt, you said you're coming. You think you're in for our Kentucky trip this year?
Yeah.
Did you figure out how far away from like where you hunt it is?
Yeah, I did. It's a little farther than I'd like, but I'd come and hang out with you guys. From the one place that I hunt, it's like 45 minutes, and the other place is like an hour and 10 or hour and 15.
I would
But
say you could just walk out and hunt public at the cabin
Well,
with a tag price.
The public is... I have dabbled quite a bit into some public in that area that's close, because last year I was hunting some public close to where Ethan was, and but it just kicked my butt.
It's hard.
Well, if the
It's
weather's like
hard.
this, it's going to be rough.
It's 90,000 degrees and mosquitoes, and it's just... I'd much rather, I don't know, I shouldn't say that. Sound like a wuss out there, but... Man, it's tough.
The Kentucky hunt we did in 2020, where no one barely saw a deer, it was similar to what you guys have done, but we were all public land. I mean, that was the most grueling hunt that I've ever been, because it was 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And you got to wear long sleeves. You got to get clothes on because of ticks and the mosquitoes and
Yep.
flies. And then you're just climbing up these hills, searching for a velvet bug that doesn't exist. Like, people at gas stations laughed at us when we said we were hunting deer. They're like, "What? There ain't no deer here."
Correct me if I'm wrong, but not a lot of people kill in public early in Kentucky. It's all private.
No.
What I've seen on YouTube. And
Yeah. From all the buddies that I have down there, it's just get on a bean source somewhere and,
Well, let's just dive right into it, because that's kind of what I have written down here first. Anyone there's going to be guys listening to this that hunt public land only. There's going to be guys that hunt private land. There's going to be guys that hunt both like us. And everyone thinks that if you're hunting private land, that it's cakewalk, gravy compared to hunting public land. But in a big buck area like we are here, as opposed to where we were hunting in Kentucky, some of the, Indiana, Pennsylvania, their big buck reputation's not as big as ours here in Northeast Ohio and Ohio in general. We run into more pressure hunting private land here, personally, I think, than ever anywhere I've ran into on public.
100%. 100%. I mean, for example, that early season hunt that I went into Kentucky with last year, I took a week off of work, hunted public in the morning and private in the evenings. I didn't run into a single person while I was out there hunting public. But back home, opening week of season, everybody's out, around us. I mean, the private pressure is just insane.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before, but our farm here where we're sitting, just the home farmers, 26 other pieces of property that touch it. And then you get farms, some of the farms like Nick hunts. I mean, it's crazy how many other guys are hunting right on the line, right on the border.
Or just how many people have permission on that same farm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have the luxury of owning or leasing, odds are, if old, the old boy that allows hunting, if he's going to let you hunt, odds are he's going to let somebody else hunt.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I run into all the time is like, you go knock on doors, yeah, I'll let you hunt, but I got a couple other guys that hunt, and then you find out a couple other, it was like 12.
I have a hard time dealing with that, especially if you you use a cell cams, for example. You get a picture overnight, you're like, oh man, the wind's good, I'm going in there. And then you get there in the morning and there's 3 pickup trucks.
Yeah.
How does that just kills your motivation right there.
I don't even hunt the property that we own because the neighbors.
Really?
Because there's so many people that hunt it. What they do is off the charts, their tactics. I mean, it's just the most unbelievable group of people to have hunting next to you. And unfortunately, they can hunt 2 sides of the property. So they surround me, and they just destroy everything. I mean, last year I didn't have a buck tag punched yet, but I had a 150 plus hanging out over there, and I didn't even hunt them one time because it's why waste the time and the effort when you're going to be sitting in your stand and the neighbor kid's going to come riding back on his 4-wheeler half hour before dark, and then he's going to walk to his blind, and then you're going to see some guy walking his dog out of a development, I mean, it's just...
Well, Nick knows all this because he spent 2 hard years hunting a buck over there.
Yeah.
And I sat with you probably 10 times hunting that deer, maybe more. And every time we're videotaping a 4-wheeler, I would get, if I wasn't sitting with him, we get a text from Nick. Some guy he hasn't stopped rattling. 30 minutes, he's just rattling and grunting right over the property line, that kind of thing. Nick owns the property, but for the deer to get there, they got to run the gauntlet.
Yeah, I mean, this year during turkey season, I had 2. I had the guy off the west side of the property and a guy off the north side, both calling. And I walked towards the guy on the west side, kicked him up, and he went running off. And then I was standing 40 yards away from the guy calling on the north side of the property line, and I'm calling to him. And it's way too aggressive. Everybody would have known it was a person, and he's like quartering away from me, and I'm looking at him through my binos, like pretty much broadside, and he's just calling right back, and it's just like you can't even turkey hunt back there, So I just let it be.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't have to tell me exactly, but how many acres are you dealing with? Like,
so
20 to 40, 60 to 100?
Yeah, we have 35.
Okay.
And then we're surrounded by the neighbor. He has 90 that wraps us. And the one year, in the beginning years, I would go out and sit there during gun season because the guy we bought from never told anybody he sold. So I'd go out there just to run patrol. And the one week, I counted 18 different people that he had given permission to hunt his 90.
Nick is very anti-gun hunting, by the way.
Yeah,
you didn't go last year, did you?
He went one time.
Went one time.
Yeah, very anti.
Didn't even do any deer drives. Nothing.
You should have with us, but that's a story for another day. This one's for you, Matt, and this is kind of what I want to get into, and it's kind of perfect because you're the guy that's done more of it than we have. What's your best method for door knocking and obtaining permissions? Like, what is your spiel? I mean, you don't have to give it all away, but I'm assuming you're going to be doing less of it now because you have your own piece. Plus, you still have some pieces that you have permission on.
Yeah. Actually, I plan on knocking on some more doors this year, but I've exhausted so many different avenues that I don't know where. I got to go try a different area. But I don't want to get into too much because everybody's got their own little secrets. I can share anything off air with you guys that you want. But first thing is just, I personally like to dress nice. So like first appearance is always,
like how nice.
I'm not saying
you got
like
a tie on,
I'm not saying suit and
two-piece
tie.
suit.
No, I'm not saying like suit and tie, but like I'll wear like a nice pair of jeans or like like khaki pants and like just a nicer shirt. Nothing like, you don't have to wear a button up. Just don't show up in your work clothes or like it's just worked better for me if I look presentable. A decent hat on, not covered in sweat and grime and I don't know. So there's a lot to it, to be honest, that I've perfected over the years. How fast you drive down the driveway, which door you knock on, what time of day. A big thing to do is like knock on the door and then step off the porch. I've learned that the hard way. You always want to give the landowner the sense of like power, and if they're above you, they feel like they're in control. So I always try to like knock on the door.
It's not like psychology type stuff.
Yeah, not too aggressively, but just knock on the door loud enough that they can hear. Step off the porch. I always try to introduce myself and tell them where I'm from, because then they kind of know a little bit about me. And then I always try to not ask for deer hunting permission. And I know that sounds goofy, but like, and it's cliche because a lot of guys will say that. You probably listen to different podcasts where they're like, well, you just talk about, if you see Ohio State football flag, or you talk about football. I mean, truthfully, like, that is the case. Like, hopefully they got something, a nice car in the driveway, or, hey, me and my wife drive this road, to go get ice cream or whatever. And we've, you just try not to talk about something, or, hey, I've got a family friend in the area. And then long story short, you might talk for a couple minutes. And then sometimes, let's be realistic, sometimes the landowner is just like, what the heck do you want? And then you can't beat around the bush. But if they're a talkative person, you kind of try to talk for a few minutes, kind of get the vibe of the conversation. If it's going good, you can ask. Sometimes I've never even asked, just because I know, like, this is not going well. And it's not worth it. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. So, like, I'll just be like, make up some bull crap that I was there to do and then walk away. But that's basically it. You probably, at least my experience, I probably get 50 no's to 1 yes. And like I was saying earlier,
you're asking a serious amount of people.
Yeah, every year I try to knock on about 100 doors.
Holy mackerel!
Yeah, I think I've knocked on 7. In my entire life.
Yeah, me too. Been told no all 7 times.
Yeah.
Well, my next question is, outside of maybe this year when things are slightly different, but how many different pieces are you hunting every year? On average, are you focusing on 5 farms, 10?
Yeah, I'd say 5 to 10 different places that I can hunt. But in reality, the places that are good, like worth hunting, only a handful.
When you had our friend's piece down here, did you limit everything else out and just go with only that?
No, I had that piece, and then I had probably 4 or 5 other pieces that I had that bounced around between.
I have some stuff to talk to you about that off air when we're done.
Yeah,
remind me.
Yeah,
some intel.
But here's the thing, and sorry if I'm long-winded, but like, unfortunately, and this is not a dig towards you, even though every time I bring it up, you think it is.
Ooh, here we go.
I don't own anything. Well, now I do, but the first 28 years of my life, my family nor I had any access to any land.
So why do you like hunting? Because I probably wouldn't even like hunting if I didn't have places.
So my old man taught me how to hunt, and so this is how I kind of got into it. And I don't think I've ever even told this story on my podcast. We dabbled on some public growing up, and I really wanted to kill a deer, and how public is, it's tough. And honestly, my dad wasn't a deer hunter. He was a trapper. But we as boys, me and my brother, wanted to deer hunt. So he's like, all right, I'll try it. He knew nothing. We knew nothing. We went to public, yada, yada. Finally, killed my first deer on public. It was a little 6-point, and I was, crossbow with my dad, 10 years old probably. Well, I got the bug, and he actually somehow weaseled this. We called it a lease, but it really wasn't a lease. It was like a permission, but we were the only people that were allowed. It was 300 acres down in Knox County. So, like, if anybody knows that area, it's killer.
Yep. We've hunted down there before.
And so, yeah, I got into hunting, like, after that, really, really into hunting, and saw a lot of deer. And my dad is, even though my dad doesn't hunt much anymore, he's basically taught me everything, and he wouldn't let us boys hunt with a gun, and he wouldn't let us shoot any deer over 20 yards when we were younger. We had a crossbow, we were younger, but once we got to the age where we could start pulling a bow back, he made us immediately switch to a compound. And I don't know, I just fell in love with how difficult it was because my dad never let it be easy for us. And he was trying to teach us woodsmanship, which was, I thank him every day for it now, because it's not like he was just sticking us on a corn pile somewhere and letting us shoot the deer. Like, he was letting us figure it out. And of course, the area that we were in, there was tons of deer. So, we learned, we'd mess up on this deer. You just jump across the road to the other 100 acres or whatever, mess up over there. It was fun.
So for the record, you've killed deer with a crossbow before?
1.
Okay.
And I was 10.
All right, Nick. This is going to get a little bit more fun, I guess. We've hunted together for the last 8 years. We've managed some farms and done this and just been involved with each other deer hunting for a long time. And I know Matt's going to be able to relate to this, and I definitely can relate to this. How frustrating is it that we live here where if a deer makes it to 5, there's a chance that the deer, there's a very good chance that deer's 150 plus. And a lot of these deer over the years that we have tried to hunt or that we have passed on or that we have, had on our radar and watched for year after year after year don't make it there because so many people are hunting and so many people are taking deer prior to their reaching their potential. And this kind of goes off what me and you talked about the other day, Matt, about Iowa. Iowa is considered the Mecca, but bigger deer every year are killed in Ohio than Iowa. I mean, every year people are killing more big deer here than Iowa. I think more deer reach their potential there. But how frustrating is it here? There's a deer right there that died on one of your farms this year that we didn't even know about. That's probably, that deer probably pushes 140 just because of his crap. Yeah. Never saw him. Was dead right in the middle of one of your farms. Bullet hole in him. It's just frustrating.
I found them in muzzleloader. It's frustrating when they die, but I never blame the hunter for shooting them. But it's tough because you get into this cycle as the season progresses. So say you go into the season, there's 4 to 5 bucks you would shoot, or I would shoot. That's the goal. Well, you get on one, he's your best probable, and then boom, something happens to him, and then you end up you rat race.
Yeah,
and that's always my story. It ends up into the rat race of as they fall off the list, you're changing tactics and moving to a different deer on a different property, and that's what becomes frustrating. It's never. It never is just simple in the fact that the deer you're trying to kill ends up being the one.
So Hot Wheels and Ned, I have it written down here. Hot Wheels and Ned, you were able to, those are deer that we knew about, you knew about going into hunting season from the summer and stuff, and it worked. But then, your last 2 big bucks that you've killed, both of those were rat race deer. Oh, yeah. Killed them late, they showed up late. They were deer that we didn't have maybe a ton of history with, but they were good deer. And they ended up, they were option 5 or 6 or whatever. Yeah.
Honestly, you get lucky with the rat race deer.
Yeah.
It's just.
Last year's was awesome.
Yeah. You get lucky that, you don't have much going on and then you just get a buck to show up and you're already set up to kill him. That's luck. But, it's when they die off, it's frustrating at the time, but in our area, we know there's going to be more next year. Your 3-year-olds will be 4-year-olds. Yeah. Your your 2s will be 3s, so the cycle just reoccurs. What gets frustrating is when they're not cooperating, and you're confined by the property line.
Yeah.
That's something I had on here.
That's like the biggest thing. Yeah.
So when we're hunting, I mean, my biggest piece is 300 acres, and then the other ones are under 30, so 5 to 30s. Well, everybody throws out that public land's the toughest, but you're not confined on public land.
Right.
Here on your private, it don't matter the work you do.
No.
You're still confined by that property line, and your neighbor to the east could be throwing out the biggest corn pile in the world, or the guy by the zoo over there, where you can see his corn pile, on Google Earth.
From space.
From
corn
space.
piles from
No, you
space.
can't.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, right next to his box blind, you can see his corn pile.
And how many, sidetrack, but how many deer have we found dead in that area or wounded from that area?
It's a yearly thing.
Yeah.
But what do you think? The deer on my cameras, how many do you think get killed a year that we know of? Probably 4 to 6 that are like in the excited part.
I mean, there's, what I was kind of going for with this question, and I actually wasn't even really meaning like the shooters. I was meaning, because we do, yes, last year you had probably, I mean, between all of us, we had X amount of shooters, and I would say 60% of them ended up getting killed. And we find out via Facebook or whatever. But, that's part of it. But I was leaning more towards in our area because there's so many hunters and the deer are so abundant. Our deer per square mile is way higher than what scientists would probably want it to be. It's losing those 2 and 3 year old bucks constantly having those deer.
What's tough about our area is a guy landowner next to us kills a deer. Now he's tagged out. So what do? They phone a friend in.
Yep.
Their buddy comes in. Now he's hunting in a spot. And you know what happens then? He kills your deer. He kills one of your deer.
Yeah. Yep.
Live that. But it's our hunters. We have so many hunters in this area. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. The public ground we hunt in Indiana or Kentucky for a little bit, and then Pennsylvania. There's a lot of guys hunting, but it's nowhere near
The pressure.
the amount of guys that are hunting by us here. I mean, we know for a fact that deer can go 2-3 miles. It's not uncommon for us to get deer 2 miles apart on trail camera, 3 miles apart on trail camera here, and to just draw a line, and that's crow flies. So to draw a crow flies line, from our farm to wherever, from your farm to wherever, think about how many pieces of property are being crossed by that deer where someone's hunting, or at least has a trail camera waiting for gun season, or maybe, I mean, it's astronomical. It's astronomical.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of properties.
And then throw in the guys that are out there every Friday and Saturday getting firewood off their property.
Yeah.
They're buried up in their woods with their tractor in and out all day long.
Yep.
What happens every Saturday and Sunday without fail, half hour before dark in this area, no matter how cold it is?
Shooting.
Everybody starts shooting. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's like clockwork.
Yeah.
You got a half hour daylight left in Ohio when on a Sunday evening, because 22 degrees out, everybody's shooting.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The deer learn. So I got some video footage of a couple years ago. It was a buck. We got a bunch of sheds up there. Buck we called the Gimp, and he was older at that time, probably 6 years old. And Isaac was filming him out of bow range. Wasn't going to take a shot anyways, but just filming him. And it was bow season, and it was right before Ohio's gun season. And the neighbor, only probably 200-300 yards away, was bang, 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 sighting in a gun of some kind. And that deer didn't even flinch. He was in the woods, didn't even flinch. But then, younger deer they'll spook out. But some of these older deer, they can tell the distance.
Yeah.
No,
They just know that it's a loud gunshot, but it's over the ridge and it's 300 yards away. I don't got to spook.
Yeah, they're thinking, well, Jerry shot at me back in gun season. He missed my ass. I know it's not hitting me.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to dive into a little bit, some lessons that we've learned from some specific bucks over the years. And I guess we could start. I've been dying dying to talk about this on our podcast. I want to talk about honey a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
I want to talk about honey. Are you going to show us a picture or what? After air. We'll do it after the air. But
Yeah.
so this deer you hunted for
A year and a half, season and a half,
how old do you think he was when you first encountered him?
3.5.
Okay, so he was relatively young, just a stud.
Yeah, very, very high potential 3.5-year-old, like in the 50s.
Did he stay the same the both years that you hunted him? So I would assume that's 2 seasons. Was his patterns the same, or was there a change?
So to be honest with you, another like secret of mine is like everyone asks for deer hunting permission in the summer. I try to ask year round, you know, even if I'm in just a weird situation. You know, things happen in life where you'll run into somebody, you start talking, even at a grocery store, whatever it may be. You run into somebody that, you know, whatever it may be, I always try to, if the situation presents itself, I'm going to ask. Well, I got permission on a large piece that's not what I'm used to hunting. So I like to hunt big timber with like ag kind of surrounding it, but this was just all, I'm not going to give too much away because, well, I lost permission to hunt the deer, but I'll get into that story because that's like one of my biggest struggles with knocking on doors is you don't own it, you don't pay any rights to hunt it. Like you can lose that ground at any moment in time. So I got access after I killed my buck, not last year because I didn't fill a tag, but the year before, when I killed that 157.8, I got permission after I killed that deer to hunt a farm that was just basically a couple hundred acres of just flat.
Yeah, I don't know much about flat. That's weird.
And I went and scouted late season, hung some cameras. This was probably January, February time frame because I killed my deer in December or 2 years ago, and got a picture of this. I mean, stud of a 3.5-year-old, and I'm only guessing he could have been 4.5, but like I'm just guessing based off body size, and we've seen enough deer to know like that's a small bodied buck for that big of a rack.
That time of year is tough though.
I realize that.
Post-rut,
I realize that, and got a picture of the deer. So I got access with like 2 months left of season. So I don't really know, to answer your question. I don't know if you know what he was doing was the same because I don't know. I hunted him fully for 1 year. Saw him at 90, saw him at 80, and then saw him at 40, all with my bow in hand. The 40-yard one I'm still sick about, but just bow hunting, man. I couldn't get a shot. I chose the ethical route. I could have just threw a Hail Mary at him, but I figured he was going to stop. He didn't. A deer of that caliber, I didn't want to try to stop him because I thought, you know.
Yeah, don't stop.
Yeah.
I learned last year, do not stop them.
Yeah, so like I've messed up on that before, like trying to, you know, give them the old mat and they always take off. It's like I've learned through my, you know, my experiences of messing up to just hopefully he'll stop naturally. If you really got to scream at him, I understand, but like, I don't know. I was looking down at my sight. He came out at 40. I can't remember, 43 or something. With deer that big, I shoot a single pin, so I dialed to 43. By the time I looked back up, he was walking like quartering away from me, and I hit him again with the rangefinder. He was like maybe in the 50s. I went down and like went to 55, looked up, and he was another 10. I mean, it wasn't like he was jogging. He was just slow walking. I probably should have stopped him, but you know, he went out to the field and started eating. I could have threw one at him, a Hail Mary, but that was last year's 40-yard encounter. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of got a little bit off topic there, but I don't know what you were trying to ask. I
was going for lessons learned. You know, only hunting one season's a little tough, but you think, you know, it's a very interesting story because you lost permission to hunt this deer because you think the landowner found out that he existed and he keyed in on him based on finding your trail camera.
Yes, 100%.
Looking around.
I can get into that. Yeah. So, this property is fairly large, and there was like 10 other guys that could hunt it last year. And there's a section that's pretty obvious on the property where everybody wants to go. And I tried to stay away from that. And when I went and hung my cameras, I hung them in like weird, just like little nooks and stuff that like most people just overlook because of how much pressure was on the property. And I'm like, okay, if there's a mature deer on this property, he's not going to be in that small block of woods where 30 other guys are hunting. He's going to be skirting it. And that's where I found that 3-year-old. And I probably had 10 cameras out, cell cameras on like, so let's just say, for example, the farm is 500 acres. I had 10 cell cameras on, well, let's say I had 5 cell cameras on like 2 acres of it and 5 acres of like 3 acres on it. And honestly, that's all that deer used on that 500 acres. And that 500 acres is not what it was. I'm just using that as a number. So naturally, what happened was rumor got out. I just got off the phone with the landowner's son actually Friday evening, and he gave me the official no. Because I got word that I got kicked off, but I wanted somebody to physically tell me why I was kicked off.
Yeah.
So I waited and made them call me basically, and I got word that, you know, hey, you're not gonna be able to hunt it. You might be able to hunt this section of it, but you can't hunt where you were hunting last year. Nobody else was hunting where I was hunting last year. I'm like, why can't I hunt where I was hunting last year? Well, you know, so-and-so's son, which is the landowner, wants to hunt where you were hunting last year. So I knew immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, is it still worth trying to hunt those other sections if
So
they're going to let you? I mean, crazy. I mean,
yes,
and he could shift.
I'm not going to not hunt it.
Yeah.
But odds are the section that they're allowing me to hunt is where everybody else is allowed to hunt also. So that's the problem. Like, he knows that that's where the pressure is.
Do you think this deer's days are numbered, or do you think he'll just move off?
Well, maybe we'll talk off air, but there's multiple people that know about him, and there's multiple people that you and I have talked about this. There was people on four-wheelers.
Is it the person that we talked about?
I'll show you the picture.
I mean, I would assume it's him, and we won't say his name on it.
I really doubt it. I really doubt it. I want to give him credit because we've talked exclusively about. So he knows about the deer.
Okay. Well, that's okay.
But like you
guys can probably imagine who we're talking about.
I don't want to get into it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And I don't know where I was going. Long story short,
I can imagine. Now I know you're talking about.
And
it makes us look like we have no clue what we're doing at all times.
Yeah. So a lot of people know about the deer. I was told from a reliable source, the same person we were just talking about, that the deer bounces around quite a bit, been seen on different properties, travels quite a bit. And so I doubt he'll make it next year because he was like county record status last year. So like
our county?
No, I can't give away which county it was.
I'll bait you all day.
So
if you're not hunting him, it's one thing. But if you can still have a possibility of him, then I fully understand that.
I still have a possibility of killing him, so I don't want. And plus, I'm going to knock on every single. So I went around in like a mile radius of the place that I was allowed to hunt last year because I knew that he was going to shift during the rut. This is such a. It reminds me very much of like this area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Every chunk of woods or just property that has enough acreage to hunt on, somebody's already hunting it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So I got so many no's that I just got burned out of no's that I was like, well, I got to kill them where I'm at. And going back to the finding of shed, I shed hunted it a couple times, but once again, it's wide open. You could probably use your imagination on what you're trying to find antlers through, and you're just glassing the whole time, and it's almost impossible because of all the stubble and et cetera. And I had a cell camera on a fence post that was the property line. So imagine like a rectangle coming out, and which is the neighbors, and right on that point, there was a camera facing out into a food source. Well, you had to, and it was a high tension fence, so very difficult to cross if you're, an older gentleman or, just not in shape. So you had to hop the fence, not once, but twice to go around the camera. And during shed season, I had multiple people on four-wheelers, on quad, or on side-by-sides. Look, I knew that they were shed hunting. And one day, I had a guy walk by a couple of my other cameras that he didn't see, obviously shed hunting, and then an area where that hunting deer frequent quite a bit. I got a picture of a guy. Well, the camera was blurry.
Yeah.
And then the next picture I got was the camera facing the wrong direction. And then as soon as that happened, about 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Hey, you're not allowed to hunt the property anymore.
That's rough.
And I was told, are you the guy that has all them cameras out there? And I shouldn't have, I should have lied, but that's just how I am. I'm not going to do that. I was like, yeah, I have a few out there. And they're like, yeah, you're going to have to come take your cameras down, and you're not allowed to hunt it next year. But this was not from the landowner, so I wanted to hear it from the landowner, which is, it's a difficult story to get into.
Yeah, because if it's not from the landowner, I would totally, he's a relative of the landowner?
Yeah, pretty much.
So if it wasn't a relative, I would have been like, well, then fuck you, asshole. Like,
so here's
you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't hold any weight if it's not the landowner, but if it's a relative.
Well,
obviously.
I'll get into it because I've talked about it on my podcast. It's the land is managed by someone. The manager has the rights to give someone permission, but you also have to get permission from the landowner.
We know a lot about that system.
So what happened was the manager told me that the landowner told him that I wasn't allowed anymore, but I wanted to hear it from the landowner. So I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and I finally got a call from the landowner the other day. And basically, I was told that where my cameras were last year is exactly where the son of the landowner will be hunting this year. And the two spots on the quote-unquote 500 acres that are the best break down to like 2 or 3 acres, and I'm not exaggerating. And those are where you're going to kill that deer. And unfortunately, I'm not going to have access to it this year.
I'd say that, lucky for you, I find it rare that a deer, there's only a few examples I can think of all the deer we've ever chased over the years that have stayed in the same little area year after year after year. They all, for the most part, will make a different type shift, and see, there's a lot of different factors.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that.
crop rotation,
pressure. And that's what I want to get into in this section.
And a big part of what he said is just because you have private doesn't mean it hunts good.
No.
There's a lot of private that is not good hunting.
Yep.
But you got to take what you can get.
Yeah.
On, say, a piece of public, you can rifle through the bad to find the good.
Yep.
And a lot of times you're going to find guys hunting in the bad just because they don't know any different. But
ease of access.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. But just because you're on private doesn't mean it hunts good. I mean, 300 acres could all be bad,
Yep.
But what's funny is I kind of want to get into this because it's something that we struggle with hunting private exclusively. I shouldn't say exclusively, but on public, if you shoot a deer, you can go retrieve it as long as it doesn't cross, private lines. But most of the time, public's large enough where odds are
not always, but
most of the time, most of the time. So a deer of that caliber, I wanted to cross my T's and dot my I's, so I went and knocked on all the neighbors. Hey, I'm hunting so-and-so's. If I shoot one and it runs on you, is it cool if I go get it? Or if you want me to come knock on the door, you can come with me, etc. Everybody was cool about it, except for 2 guys. The one guy owns a significant amount of land that this deer was coming out of.
So he knows.
So, but he doesn't hunt.
Ooh.
So he's a real big... I don't want to offend anybody, but real big liberal. Like
you're good.
Like libtard. Obviously not anyone here, but I'm saying your listeners.
Yeah.
Ethan's got a liberal haircut.
Yeah, I do. Liberal lisp too.
So yeah, he told me that if I shot a deer and it ran onto him, it was nature's way. And that he would prosecute me at the fullest if he caught me on his land. This deer was coming off of him onto where I had access to hunt. And I had, like you were talking, where I was hunting is not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be back where this old boy had property that didn't allow any hunting. And long story short, what's going to happen? It's probably a godsend that I lost permission because I would have I would have went back there in the cover of darkness and went and got my deer. I'm not going to let a deer like that rot. I don't care what the law says. Yeah. I'm going to go get it.
Yeah.
So
that's not even a question.
I would have done it with 12 assholes, a bunch of flashlights, and a case of beer, on video. We're gonna ask for forgiveness after we get this thing.
Yeah.
You gotta judge that in the time, and it's like we're going. And if it's bad, it's bad. But
he told me that he'd prosecute me at the fullest if he caught me on his property. And he's, old guy, but odds are, and like I'm saying, it's probably godsend that I lost permission, because odds are, what's going to happen? You're going to shoot that deer, he's going to spin around, and he's going to run right back to where he wants to be, which is right behind that dude's house.
Yeah, you'd have to. Yeah, that's tough.
That's a problem for after the shot, in my opinion. I mean, you shoot the deer, then you worry about that.
Yeah, but a deer of that caliber, man, I just didn't want to. I mean, we're talking like massive. So
we don't have those problems out here.
Not anymore. I mean, it used to be so much better. We've talked about this on multiple podcasts. 10 years ago was just glory days out here. And, a lot of it's probably, I won't say it's our fault, but a lot of it is just we live in an area where there's a lot of people hunting, and killing a deer is not hard. So a lot of people are killing deer just before they can reach their full potential. We've killed plenty of deer before they reach their full potential in our journey of hunting. It's easy to sit here now and say, well, we should, all these deer we probably should have let go another year, but what's the fun in that?
Well, and we also don't have that big piece of public near us that other people could go to. So, people are leasing up ground and everything else around here, but we don't have the Hoosier National Forest a half hour down the road.
I wish we did.
Oh, yeah, me too.
If we lived in southern Indiana, oh my God, it's just so beautiful down there.
Yeah.
Even
like southern Ohio,
Yeah.
I mean, Shawnee and Wayne National, I don't know if you guys ever hunted it, but like, man.
So I've actually never hunted that piece. We always went farther south to like the AEP rec lands. That's where we hunted a lot of public, was down. I
mean, it's beautiful.
Farther down 77. But
and honestly, the same thing. You don't run into a lot of people, truthfully. Unless it's the rut.
Yeah, it's definitely been getting a lot from what, I follow on social media. Obviously, you're going to see everything, but it's obviously getting a lot more crowded now with THP and all that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's where they do their deer drives.
They do.
Their muzzleloader deer drives.
I know. I shouldn't say I know exactly where, but I know the town that they do their muzzleloader deer drives, it's not hard to figure out.
That sucks because those videos are cool and it does look like fun, but then I would put myself in the shoes of the guys that are down there hunting and like, oh God, muzzleloader season's coming. Here comes Zach.
Yeah.
Literally 30 assholes.
30 dudes.
Yeah. And they're going the old Hinckley, like back in the 1900s, elbow to elbow. Like any deer that's in here is getting bumped because they can't physically get past us.
I hate that. And even on their videos where they're doing their bump and runs and they're shooting the deer off the ground and then they take off running after it like a cheetah. Like a lot of that bothers me just because you show you don't respect anybody else that's on that public land.
Yeah, that's
I get it's public, but you are showing poor sportsmanship to anybody else that may be there hunting that.
Yeah, and that's the weird. THP the first couple of years when they were hunting. This is pre-saddle when they were hunting out of tree stands, and they would go in, set up a tree stand, do all their hunting, make their videos. I mean, those videos were cool to watch. They were fun to watch, but yeah. Like you said, Nick, I hate to be one of those guys that hates on anything, promotional or YouTube or progressive, but they don't show any type of couth to anyone that's hunting those lands. I mean, they go in and rape and pillage. Yeah. It's like Sherman marching on Atlanta when they show up in an area. I mean, it's scorched earth. We're going to hunt the balls off this piece of property. And I've talked to plenty of people. We got a guy coming on next week to do the public land series, portion of the series. He's run into THP turkey hunting multiple times. I don't know if I'll be able to get him to tell the stories on air, so I won't say his name at the moment, but he says they're going to give you the basic, we're hunting here and we don't care if you're here first. Then their videos, they show that they'll be moving to other spots, but if they're dead set on an area, THP's going in.
Well, I mean, it's their livelihood.
Yeah, they have to do it.
They have to kill.
Yeah.
If they don't kill, they don't get paid. You know what I mean? Like, But
that's for next week's conversation.
Yeah.
So, I guess we kind of hammered in. We didn't really actually touch on much did we learn from hunting. What did we learn from? Did we learn anything hunting, honey?
take your opportunities. I wish I would have just shot at him. You know, I shoot my bow enough that I know I can hit the vitals of that deer at 40, 50, 60, whatever it may be. But sometimes you just get clouded vision when a deer's that big. You know what I mean? Like,
Were you filming?
yeah.
So how's that going to work with you? If you never, are you the kind of guy that's going to wait until that deer dies and then potentially release some stuff, or is that just forever going to be put away?
I probably just put it away.
I got a couple bucks that Nick's been hunting over the years that I have never released anything of because I'm not allowed. I just got hard drives full of shit that I'm never allowed to release.
That's part of hunting private.
It is, and I do respect that. There's been a few times like
the private in our area, because everybody around us,
they know where we're hunting.
They know where we're hunting. Yeah. People that I don't even know where I'm hunting.
Yeah.
You know, and then, we're surrounded by hunters. So the moment you show your hand, it's like you got
right.
Ethan Simon moving in 900 yards away from me.
How far away is too close to move in on a guy? Let's talk about that real quick.
Like, of a buddy?
Yeah, like what if Jerry went out and got permission and you found out it was 900 yards away? Would you be mad?
From where I'm hunting?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What if your intent? What if your intent was to help your friend out? and you got mad anyways?
Yeah. The intent that.
Well, so to be honest though, that was just an opportunity. Like he said, his situation where he got permission, and you haven't even really got, like, you just got permission.
Should come back September 1st and walk the property.
There was just an opportunity. There was a chance meeting. Oh, hey, do you allow deer hunting? Oh, yeah. Come back in September. I'll show you my property. And then it just so happened to be within 900 yards of where he's hunting. So, nothing's been done yet.
Yeah.
It's not even where I've been hunting. It's my primary spot.
Yeah.
But the intent was not to hunt it without
but
you.
to add, to at least add the property to the repertoire.
And I'm really not even that worked up about it. They went through a similar situation last year that they were ready to stake.
He did it to us.
They were ready to stake.
I did it to you.
Yeah, I mean, you were hunting within 900 yards.
You were ready to stake.
You didn't know
Dylan
us.
to the cross.
You.
Yeah, right.
If I would have known you, I would probably. I don't know. That farm, I probably would've.
I took jabs at him last week when he was here about. I'm like, yeah, you got assholes like you moving in.
Yeah, he still hasn't given up on it on Dylan last year.
No, I was talking about Jason.
Oh, Jason. And
Dylan actually didn't hunt that property last year, from what we know.
Yeah, he just shed on it without you after he.
So truthfully, like, to answer your question, I take that very seriously. I'm not to bash Ethan or anything. I don't know the situation, but like, if I know somebody's hunting, I'll stay miles away from it, because to me, it's not worth losing a friend over some stupid deer. So, like, and I've had buddies like, hey, where'd you get that picture of that deer? And I thought that they were like really good buddies. And I'm like, it's this area. And then I find out, next season, hey, I got permission.
Rat buck.
I got permission, down the road. And then it's like, here's the thing though. I'll be completely honest. I'm that person with somebody I don't know. Like, if some idiot's willing to share pictures of a deer.
Yeah.
And drop a pin that I don't know, and he's like, hey, there's this deer that I've been hunting. I don't know the dude. Like, that's him being stupid, sharing pictures. So, like, I don't mind doing that, and maybe that's not the right thing to do, but if I know the person, I'm not going to step on their toes. No.
I don't.
It's a little bit more simple than that. Like, it wasn't that huge. It was a huge deal for about 5 minutes, but I don't think Ethan's going to end up even being able to get permission to hunt there the way it sounds.
Here's a big difference of private to public. He won't come off a picture of honey, but last year he had a monster in Indiana, and he gave up the exact location of that puppy.
To the entire world, he gave the information.
He's like, here you go, everybody. Let's. Right here, X marks the spot.
I became a member of the Wise Eye Trail Camera group.
I know
they're all posting the exact. I commented on one of them. I was like, bro, you might want to take that down. And then I realized everyone's doing it. I'm like,
they don't care.
Oh my god, these guys are idiots.
Yeah. The problem is, like, they were probably just like us and didn't know what it was at first. And what's crazy is we knew that it was coordinates, but like, it didn't process through the brain. Like, what are them numbers down there?
You're not used to it being on your picture.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of a rare
So I did everything I can to help you out, to help me out, because it was our area.
Honestly.
But I also put that pin in my phone.
I figured you did. I figured you did.
And it was actually like 6.2 miles from anywhere we'd even scouted. So it was like...
No, but you didn't notice it at first. You posted the picture. I was like, on X, like... I was like,
Yeah,
yo,
he's the one who found it. Then he got to me,
It's like,
and I
it's
went to
right there.
Kevin. I went to Kevin first, I think.
Yeah, we were all working. It
Yeah.
was a work
I called
day.
Cromer.
Yeah.
He called Cromer. I got a hold of. I tried to message Kevin because I knew he had done this. He does the social media, I think.
Yeah, he
So-
does a lot of the
So
posts.
then I messaged and I called you, and you're like, "What?" You're like, "What?" And I'm like, "You just posted pictures of a 180-inch velvet buck with the exact coordinates to where he's located on the internet
on public.
like
yeah.
12 minutes ago."
Yeah. Nah, so I know we've joked about this story before, but like to paint the picture for the audience that maybe doesn't know the story. We were doing some testing for Wise Eye. We work with Wise Eye with our podcast channel, and like they had sent us some new cameras, and they were GPS cameras, and we turned the GPS on, not knowing that they had the GPS coordinates of where the last picture was on the timestamp of the picture. And
If you're not a sharer, it's pretty sweet because you could you could utilize it if you're a guy that hunts 10 states and you're an individual who's
Yeah.
private and
Yeah.
not using social media. It'll help.
yeah.
But if you're a guy like us, it's not good.
So we went on some public and found an absolute mega. Just trash everywhere. I mean, he might have been bigger than 180, honestly. And
Do you think anyone ever killed him?
no, but a lot of people knew about him.
Yeah, when you went to hunt later, you found out that everyone knew.
Everybody
about
knew. All the locals were hunting him hard. So I think he shifted. But where was I? Long story short, I posted the picture. Kevin posted the picture on social media, and like we were all working, and like Caleb called me twice, and I ignored his first call, and then he called me back because I was elbow deep at work, and then he called me immediately back, and I'm like, well, maybe something happened. So I answered the phone. He's screaming at me to take the picture down. You idiot, you have the coordinates. And I'm like, no, there ain't no coordinates on there. And then I look at the picture, and like, you ever get that feeling in your stomach like you're going to puke? Like,
What did I do?
yeah. And it was on social media for like 2 or 3 hours too, I think.
Yeah, but I only, it was like the moment I noticed it, I started making calls because I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah. And then
Ethan's the one who found it, but like when I punched him in, I was like, there's no way it's actually, and when I put it in Google Earth. I didn't put it in the hunting apps. I
took
put
you
it
right
in
to the
Google
tree.
Earth, and it's got like 4K satellite photos, and it zoomed in on Earth, down into Indiana, down into public land. Like, I'm like, oh no. Oh no.
yeah, that's a lesson learned there. Make sure you pay attention to your timestamp on a new camera.
All right, so I guess moving on. I want to brush real quick. You know, we talked about hunting for a while, just on some of the deer that we've hunted. The lessons we've got to learn watching them year after year after year. We already talked about, earlier in the podcast, Nick had a buck on the farm that he actually owns. You had pictures of him. Was it 3 or 4 seasons worth? I think it's 4.
Yeah, it's 4.
Which is,
4 years.
I mean, that's a lot in this area. 3, 4, 5, 6.
You moved a lot too.
And that's what I wanted to get at. That deer, we ended up finding total 3 sheds off of him, all the same side, 3 sheds over the years. And then when he finally got killed as what we believe would be 6, potentially 7-year-old deer, about 3/4 of a mile.
Probably.
But that year, he just really wasn't killable. Obviously we were all in. You were all in with Mineral Licks cameras. We planted a shit ton of food plots that year on your property. I mean, we went hard.
Bought a redneck just to change.
Matt's favorite. We bought a redneck.
Man.
Bought a redneck just to change because we needed to get
Different side of the field.
We needed to get to a different point that we could not get to cover that wind, and
he just never
showed up.
Do you think, and it's kind of, I have some of this stuff written down. Do you think all the shit we did in there hurt, helped, indifferent?
I think it was indifferent. I think it was mostly what the neighbors were doing and the fact that he was 7. So
yeah,
I think his core went like this. I mean, 3, 4, 5, 6. He was all over the place. I mean, when he was 6, we were in one night between me, Ryan, and AAA. We would have get pictures of him, and he would go almost 2 miles away and then be back the next day.
We watched him chase does at the end of January.
Yeah.
Nose down, chasing does in January. I mean, this deer was, and he showed up that next, I'll never forget, he showed up that next spring as a 7-year-old year, like 120 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, he was worn down that next spring.
Yeah. I think the biggest advantage we have when you keep a private place for multiple years is you can use historical data.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always going to get your rotation between the crops
Crop rotation.
and things like that, but you'll always have your historical. Over at the zoo, I mean, my cameras ride on the same trees
Yeah.
most of the time. I mean, there's a camera out there right now that has not moved in 384 days.
Yeah.
It's been in the same exact spot.
There's no reason to move it either.
That is an advantage. On the flip side, everybody's, going to public. Everybody's, public's so hard. Well, you just don't have the time to build that knowledge.
Yeah.
When you go there for 4 days, what do you expect?
Yeah.
When you go to a piece of public and a new piece of private, your feeling's the same going in. You're excited for the unknown.
Yeah.
The feeling is the same. But without it being close to you, you can't build that repertoire of information with the deer, the property layout, how it plays out during rut. So that is a huge advantage to hunting private in Ohio,
Yeah, because we, our group of people, like we've mentioned a couple times in this podcast, we are not close to public.
No.
We are not close to any manageable hunting piece of public. The closest public we can get to that's large tract is 2.5 hours away. I mean, we are far, maybe down like you were talking about, maybe a little bit closer, but we're just very far, and we haven't, and there's never been public here. There's going to be people listening to this that live in the areas that we've hunted before that are public, and they're like, oh man, there's more public than private times 100. 90% public. That's not the kind of areas that we're hunting, and I would assume most of the audience is probably not hunting an area like that either.
Yeah,
we're private land hunters. Grandma's farm, uncle's farm, permission piece. That 33 buck. Just to put that to bed, he moved a lot. He changed his pattern a lot over the 4 years you hunted him.
Oh yeah.
To give a little, to put my input real quick. We got the deer here, Hook, in the shop. That's a deer that did the opposite of the 33 buck. I mean, that deer, like you said, I had cameras not on a tree for 340 days. I had some cameras on the same tree for 1,000 days. There was a particular mineral lick I got him on 4 years in a row, same tree. I mean, that's 1,000 days where a camera's on a tree. He visited every year. He was a homebody deer, but we don't see a lot of that. When there is a deer like that, if you don't suck like me and Isaac do, you can usually kill him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's deer in our past videos you could watch. The story of Hot Wheels. It's a very old, crude video from 8 years ago, but that deer was on that farm all summer long. Mm-hmm. Killed him. But October 25th.
Yep.
So early in the season per se. Ned was another one. You passed him the year before at least once or twice. He was on the farm. He came back that fall. All the same spots where he was the year before. We had cameras. Then you end up killing him November 16th. That sound right?
11th or 13th.
November 13th.
We just got back from Indiana.
Indiana. Yep. So those are two deer. When you have a deer like that, that's the advantage of the private land. If you have cameras in an area year after year after year, the same buck comes back year after year after year. We have a lot of examples of that.
I would almost argue that, to be honest. And hear me out. So I don't know how much you guys hunt that's exclusively yours or maybe quote unquote manageable. But I have found that I try to get permission around places that aren't accessible. Whether it be, whatever, use your imagination. Odds are, if you find a place that's around that you can't, the place that you want to get into but you legally can't, or say the landowner doesn't allow any hunting, etc. Quote unquote sanctuary. Hate using that word, but I have found that because of the pressure of the properties that I'm allowed hunting. So once again, rewind. I've never had property that was mine, leased, etc. So I'm always knocking on doors. 10 other people can hunt it. I have found that after that deer's 3.5, he's gone. Because what'll happen is, say I'm hunting that place for 3 or 4 years, I'll get a deer that's got a lot of potential. It might make it. But once he hits 4.5, 5.5, he's now mature enough to occupy the quote unquote sanctuary that I wanted to originally hunt. So now he's a ghost. So I can shoot 1 million, 2.5, 3.5-year-old deer on the property that I have the permission, but as soon as he becomes the mature deer in the area, he's leaving the pressure, and he's going to where he wants to be.
Well,
So like I don't have that
Well,
luxury of knowing that.
Nick has the luxury of having that farm.
Well, I do have that. I have that farm, but I watch for every buck that I get that's 3 going to 4 that stays, I lose 3 to 4 bucks on the back end.
Because that mature deer is kicking them off, is what you're saying?
Well, I think my problem isn't mature bucks. My problem is the fact of my deer density.
Doe factories.
And the fact of the social pressure of the deer herd. So
Gotcha.
I have so many deer that stay there
Year round.
ton of does that a mature buck just doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
He'll go back behind the old farmer's house and lay 80 yards off the back of his barn.
In some weed patch or something.
In the scrubbiest shit
Yeah.
versus laying up on a beautiful point overlooking a swamp in the pines.
Yeah.
He'll pick that, but it's because of the social pressure. So he doesn't want to bed up and have 20 deer walk by him a night.
Yeah.
So they just bump out. My main farm I've had for 16 years probably, and it's evolved. It's gone downhill in the buck category, even though I have good deer. It used to be
Phenomenal. Yeah.
There was
phenomenal.
200-inch deer in the caliber prior.
I mean, there's years. It was.
There was multiple 200s living on it at the same time.
It was
at one
sickening.
point.
Like you back then, 17 years old, you throw up a shitty wild game camera, and you're just checking the card, and it's like the 160s look small. It was like
Back then, you weren't hunting
is.
it exclusively either. Other people had permission back then.
Yeah, other people have permission. Now it's pretty much me, Tyler, when he hunts, and the gun hunters. But
The gun hunters.
yeah,
There's still the old crowd.
Yeah.
You still got to deal with that old crowd. The good old boys on that particular farm. I mean, they do their damage.
Yeah.
They're good guys, and we hunt with them and all that. But
I think no matter what,
They do their damage.
You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose deer as they mature. It's just. But unless your piece is big enough, like my piece is 300 acres. It'll break out to be the point where there's a center line, and this buck will work this area, and this buck will hold this area. And when my main target last year got shot and left the area, the cameras he was on, it was unbelievable watching the change within 3 days. I mean, bucks that weren't coming over there were like, it's like they knew.
Yeah.
They knew. They're like, oh, we saw him down there, and he ain't been here.
Yeah.
Like they just all started to shift in.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the most dominant. This is something that some people might have a hard time understanding. The most dominant buck in an area might not be the biggest.
Correct.
Oh, most times.
Correct. Most
You'll
of the
have
time
these
it's not, yeah.
freak 3 and 4 year olds that'll score more than some 5 and 6 year olds, and then you have a deer that might be 6 or 7 or 8 years old that's just a bully, and he's just a bullhorn. Yeah, that deer on the wall over there is 6 years old. He don't look like shit on that mount, but that deer was old. He was on our farm for 4 years, and he just fucked with every deer. He's all broken up, half his shit's fucked up. I mean, and that deer was an asshole. No weight on him. When Isaac killed him, there was nothing there weight wise.
Well, this is the funnest part about private to public. We can build these stories.
Yeah.
And that makes the harvest that much sweeter when you have the story behind it. And you're gonna have a blast now that doing your own thing on your property. Like no matter what it is, I mean, every year as you build and as you're watching these deer, it's just gonna get better and better. It's just fun to. It's fun to build it.
I'm excited. Yeah, I've never had that opportunity, and it's definitely it's nice knowing that Caleb and I've talked about this quite a bit. It's nice whether there's a shooter on it or not. It's nice knowing like nobody's been in there and messed anything up.
So you're gonna this is where me, Nick, and Ethan are gonna be able to just bombard you, but you've already kind of started. You found that broken up shed that ain't that bad. And then, come July and August, you're going to get a deer on trail camera that's going to look like him. And you're going to be like, oh, that's him. And then, you're going to come to this podcast 2 years from now and you'd be like, that sumbitch still, he's 7 years old. And, I had him at 40 yards. You wouldn't think it, but, I mean, I got a whole room full of stories that I could talk about for just unlimited hours. And that happens because it's more than just deer hunting at this
Yeah.
point and checking cameras and getting permission. You're going to be out turkey hunting. You're going to find a shed, and then you're going to see a bachelor group of bucks. And then in the summertime, you're going to be riding your 4-wheeler around. You're going to bump a buck up, and you're like, oh, shit, that was him. He's bedding right here. And it's just over time, 10 years from now, you're going to have all these stories, and you're going to get to know your neighbors, and they're going to tell you stories. I've had friendships that I've made with neighbors, lost with neighbors, new neighbors that moved in. Like, it's evolving, but you're going to love it, and it's going to change the way you feel about hunting. I know you make fun of the redneck blinds and the corn piles and all the stuff we do, but it's going to change you at some level, because you're just, like I told you, you're going to go hunt for honey on this piece of property you got next to maybe that farm you had, and then after 3 times of going out there and running into a guy in the parking lot, you're going to have a 145-inch deer show up at your farm, and you're going to be like, damn, like, you know what? Like, how fun would it be to shoot that and take it back, and the wife will be there and just be in my garage, and I don't even have to load it in my truck and drive 45 minutes. Like, it's the positives are you're gonna start, like,
I understand.
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the process of how, like, the food plotting and stuff like that I put in.
All of a sudden, rain matters. You never cared about rain. You never cared about rain
for rain
ever before.
Yeah, we got 2 tents, 2 tents on the way.
Like, everyone else in the summertime is like, oh God, it's gonna rain next week, and we're like, fuck yes.
Yeah, like, I'm praying for rain. Yeah, it's I've got corn in the ground, I've got beans in the ground, I got clover, and it's like, it's.
You went all in for first year.
So we're kind of at the end of where we need to be. We're at an hour and 15. We can kind of bullshit a little bit, but what you're gonna run into on your private land is you're gonna run into, and it happens to us, and it's just something you got to navigate with. Nick touched on it a little bit. The density of deer and your quote unquote doe factories.
Yeah.
I chimed in a little bit with that. So what's going to happen is you're going to do these things that you see on videos or read in the books or magazines, and they are going to make your hunting so much better, and it's going to be fun. But when you have any type of attraction like that,
I understand.
It's even like humans. You make an attraction for humans, and you're going to get everyone there.
Yeah.
Not just the people that you're trying to attract.
Yeah.
You're going to get everyone, and it's going to be that way with the deer. So you're going to go out hunting, and every time you walk out to your tree stand, you're going to bump 10 deer, and you're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, I can't even get in my stand.
That's one thing that I was naive about, because obviously I'm not going to repeat myself a million times, but I've never had the opportunity. So, like, one thing that I was naive about was, I'm going to put corn up, I'm going to let it stand all year, I'm going to brush hog it periodically, and I'm going to have this mega food plot, Well, then, I don't know what podcast I was listening to. Somebody was, like, talking about how much they absolutely regret making a quote-unquote doe factory like you guys were talking about. Yep. And, I'm a little worried that I might have made that mistake.
It'll have its. So here's the thing.
If you have neighbors around you that hunt that are actually killing deer, say they're out there shooting 2 does each, or you have deer dying around you.
Yeah,
it's not that bad. My problem is I have the hunters,
but nobody wants to shoot does.
But they're trophy hunting.
Yeah,
so your late season hunting is going to be phenomenal. You just got to take the good with the bad. I mean, my hunting has shifted to the point where I just write off early season. I could
we
care
went
less.
Hard last year.
We did.
Fuck, we're so close. So close.
Right off the early season, banking on the fact that your December, your January, and February, you're ready for it, and nobody else is. So when things get cold, and who knows, you may be sitting there not having anything you want to shoot, and
randomly one
shows up, like what happened to me, and now you're holding on to them because you're the only guy
that's food source,
that's got the food source, and you have the bedding.
Yeah,
it opens up a lot of things, and it's perfect for you because we've known you now 4 or 5 years, and you hunt your way. You're definitely more. What's the word I'm looking for? No, I mean, so like I'm not opposed to throwing up a corn pile and using my shotgun. You'll get there too, because you're going to sit there. I know you say that, but you're going to be sitting there and you're going to be on your property. You're going to be like, well, he's 150 inches. I found his shed when I was in my field. I've had 4 encounters with him. He's over in the neighbor's field every night. I can't get him over. All it takes is 3 bags of corn, and now he's on yours. And then he's on the wall, and no one gives a fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
And
I tell you what.
I do.
because you own it now, so you can control these things. It's not like you're doing something that might benefit someone else. Because that's a big part.
But
of
here's the thing: the
permission piece.
Essentially, anybody listening, it's not rocket science that I'm not. So, like, the barrier of entry is significantly higher to plant 4 acres of corn, but essentially, I'm just baiting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some would argue that what's the difference between a bait pile and running a food plot? Like, the barrier of entry is significantly different.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the guy that puts in the food plot a lot more than the guy that dumps a corn bag. And plus you need the equipment, the land. You can go on 5 acres of woods, dump a corn bag, and still kill a deer. But what I'm getting at is, like, I did all the food plot and stuff basically to to argue the point that you just made about, just dump a bag of corn, which I'm not saying that that's how you said it, but, like, I'm hoping that I can go brush hog an acre of corn, and there's my quote-unquote corn pile.
You can, and then it'll be gone on December 8th, and you'll be like, fuck,
Well, then
there's
I'll-
2 months left.
Well, then I'll go brush
'Cause
hog
you're
another acre.
you're gonna have
Yeah.
so many deer that it's gonna you'll be amazed at how much they pile dry.
Well, the good thing about being in a cornfield, it'll take them a long time to
Yes.
sift through. I will say, I shot a deer off a corn pile with a crossbow.
we've never talked.
Recently.
We've
yeah.
never talked about this on the air.
Go in my house and look at my wall and find that deer.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He's laying on my basement floor. He has been for months. I can't even walk into my house and look at that thing. He is laying on my dirty basement floor.
You don't like the mount though either.
I don't like the mount, and I hate the deer. Like, I've hated it since I've done it. So it's like
the funny part was though, with that individual deer, you really wanted to kill him at the time, and I don't see. I think you're too hard on yourself on him.
Well, we walked in there with stands to hang a stand, and there was just nowhere to do it in cover. So it was like, okay, you gotta go to the ground. Okay, well, the problem is with where he was already being baited previously, but there was nowhere. You're not going to shoot a deer in January off the ground with a compound bow.
Well, that's what Jason was saying in the podcast last week. He hunts out of a redneck now, primarily on that suburban. It's the city deer hunting because he's got 50 deer in front of him, and he's like, you cannot draw a bow.
Yeah.
No, you can be as cool as you want about it. You just can't draw a bow, and that's specific to him, obviously.
Yeah, I still hate it. That deer lays on my basement floor.
It was still good.
It's at the end of my kids' gymnastic mats.
Well, when you have a big shop one day, you can put it up high, and no one will know the difference.
I'm gonna bust the antlers off of it.
I don't have a problem with, like, I don't want to sit here and bash the next person. I just want to make a point that, like, me personally, I would rather do it a different way. If the corn pile thing is the only option you have, I'm not going to sit here and say that I agree with it, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're an idiot for doing it. It's just
Everybody has their own thing. Like, guys want to go hunt city. I wouldn't hunt city.
No.
Guys want to go chase public deer and that's cool too. I would do that if we had public somewhat reasonably close.
Oh yeah,
but
100%.
And I would love it just because of no boundaries. But given the cards we're dealt, we're here. I want to build the story with the private land deer. The corn pile buck, I hate that deer. I hate it with a passion. It
Is
kills
it the
me.
corn pile or is it the crossbow?
I think it's a combination of both.
So okay, I need to hear the story. For one, I thought you were a big compound guy.
Oh, my last one was every other one's been compound.
So what happened? Were you injured or?
Nope. So
we found this deer in October.
We found him in October. I was hunting a different deer. I'd be getting pictures of this deer killing a scrape all late October, early November.
How big is this deer?
Oh, he's 140s.
Okay.
144, 146. It's in the book.
I don't even remember.
Mid 140s.
And I'm like, nah, not doing it. Every deer dies. I mean, every one that I had, minus him.
I've been there.
Well, and then it's great because it's there was a deer. The deer you were hunting, we thought was dead.
Yeah, we thought
and
it was
ended
dead.
up not being. But
yeah, so thought he was dead. Every other deer had died. So it was like, okay, let's get on this one. It's middle of January. We had a cold front coming in. There's out of towners that come into town. So They were coming that weekend too.
To that property.
Okay.
It's not his 300 acre. It's
a different piece. So they're coming in. Got told, hey, he was coming here on this old crusty corn pile. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go out, throw out a bag of corn, see if he shows up. Go out, put out some corn. Boom, he's showing up. We have a cold front. Me and Caleb went back there to put up a stand setup.
We never ended up hanging him.
And we just looked around. They're like, you'll get busted anywhere you go in here.
Yeah.
So it was like, you got to go to the ground. Well, we had a huge cold front working through tail end. It was coming in Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I went out Thursday in the pouring rain, cut off a bunch of beech tree branches after work. I mean, it's 38 degrees in pouring rain. And I'm cutting all these beech trees branches off, and I build a makeshift ground blind because I didn't want to plop in a ground blind.
Yep. And him know, yeah.
Because they're going to look at that thing right away.
Yep.
So my dad has some 10-point crossbow, and I'm like, well, piss on it. We're killing this deer, we're going to kill him. So end up killing him, shooting him and killing him, and then it was just like there was no celebration factor.
Yeah.
Like I
didn't search for him that night.
I didn't even look for him that night. I was like, I couldn't see where I hit him. Just go out in the morning. Found him. Was like, oop, here he is. Brought him in here, hung him up, took off.
Smelled like death.
Weren't you sick or something?
I ended up puking all day, but it was never. There was zero fulfillment for me on that whole thing. Like,
you killed to kill, and then afterwards you're like,
You felt bad about it.
"Damn."
yeah. It didn't check any of the boxes. So it's. I absolutely despise city hunting. I despise they do it with crossbows, and then I did it even though it was in country, and I hate it. Like that deer, if my house caught on fire, I wouldn't even be sad if that deer was missing. My other ones, I'd be sad.
Better save Chocolate and Ned.
Yeah.
Those two deer better get thrown out first
I'll
before your kids.
Yeah, I'm like, but I don't know. It didn't fulfill anything, Plus, we were in that contest, and my team had already shot 2 deer.
Yeah, so you were
so I'm like,
pressure.
you got to kill one, and it was like, I don't know, nothing about it checked the box.
Forgive me, Matt, but wasn't your 157 killed over corn
Yeah, it was.
with a muzzleloader?
450 Bushmaster.
Oh.
And once again,
Hey, praise to you for actually hitting the deer with the 450 Bushmaster because I missed. So
Same. Me and Nick over here have probably 400, 500 inches that are not on the wall from us holding guns in our hands. Like, it's bad.
Yeah.
How bad we are with rifles. And it shouldn't be that way, but it is.
So, to answer your question, yes, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it wasn't over a corn pile, but it's not like I was dumping. So what happened was hear me out.
I dumped 2 bags.
Yeah, I'm not dumping a ton. Just,
Hear me out. I dumped a bag.
I don't judge you at all.
To see if there was any deer in the area because I was scrambling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's
like he talked about.
It was on a property that I had prior knowledge of that, okay, if there's a big one using this bench, he's going to be right here. So I dumped a bag, it was within a week of killing the deer. So that's the problem. It's not like I was baiting for months.
It's like Iowa trail cameras. Like, I got a picture of him 2 days ago, so it's okay.
Well, I'm not going to lie and say it wasn't over bait, but I dumped 1 bag. He hit it, and he just kept coming back. It was just like one of them things.
That's the way.
My deer last year was killed because Tate kicked out 100 pounds of corn because we thought, when I got that first picture, that we thought it was
that's
the main target buck.
It's
it
a
was
weird
10
one.
days prior.
It's a weird one because the deer you killed last year was killed with the aid of bait. It was killed with the aid of bait, but he wasn't in. It wasn't. It's hard to explain, I guess, on camera and make it sound right. He wasn't killed because we were baiting a spot. Tate, we had that camera the one that you talked about. It's been 384 days in the same spot. All the bucks were on it. It was in a harvested bean field right outside of a beautiful swamp, a lot of bedding. And Tate messaged you prior to that cold front, said, "Hey man, we're cleaning up we're cleaning the grain bins. I got 100 pounds of just shit corn from around around the bins. Where do you want it?" And you're like, "All right, throw it out by the radix," which isn't a redneck, but it's a radix.
Well,
and magic happened 3 days later. 150-inch buck.
The thing with it is that deer, got a picture of just a glimpse of his right side.
Yeah.
You could tell it was a 10-point. Thought that it was the number one that got wounded. So the next day, Tate calls me, hey, I got some shitty corn I'm going to throw out. And I'm like, go put it in front of that camera, because I'm thinking it was him that came back. Well, that had to be like a Thursday, because that weekend is when I got the full picture. It was rainy, shitty. Yeah, got a full picture of him. We were Christmas shopping for our kids. Got a full picture of him. Didn't even stop at the bait. And then he had stopped a couple times, but Tate threw out maybe 80 to 100 pounds. And then 10 days later is when that cold front came in. I mean, all the deer were using that field already regardless, but, you know, it was there 10 days prior. But,
you know, just me thinking back on our history. That deer, remember that summer when we thought we had a random deer on your cell cam in the bean field.
And I said,
and we kind of knew it wasn't the number one, but we're like, that's a 10-point, but it's not the number one.
That
was him.
It's him quartering away, walking away. Yep.
Ethan did actually, I think Ethan did all the filming, ended up filming this deer in July, like over a mile 2, mile 3 away from where Nick killed him. And then we never put 2 and 2 together. We filmed this deer a mile away in the summertime, archived it. It was on some old videos. Fast forward to December, Nick kills a deer. And then like that next month in January, when I'm doing some video and stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, we have summer velvet of this deer a mile away. But
well, I mean, here's another thing, disadvantage to the private is the fact that baiting is legal.
Yeah.
Everybody does it. I mean, I'm not saying, I will say 96% of the guys that hunt are hunting over corn. Most people hunt over corn. So we are not, unless you have a piece big enough, my 300, okay. But the smaller ones, you are not hunting natural deer movement. You are hunting them corn pile hopping.
Yep. I have that written down here. So, we never got to it.
So when you get into scramble mode post gun season, I mean,
that's what it was.
You have to put out corn at all your spots in a camera just to know
what's left,
what's around to hunt.
Yeah.
If you get to December, you have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't, you might as well just pack it in, because you're not gonna. Yeah. You're not doing yourself any favors.
I don't disagree. I'm just really bad at it. Isaac isn't. He's killed a couple of these deer here. Well, actually, no. He only killed that one over corn. But I haven't killed a buck in 2 years, and after gun season, we've been putting out the corn heavy and hunting it, and I've had some opportunities here and there, deer on the other side of the field, all that shit that's in the videos, but I haven't been able to have that good corn pile hunt. Other guys have. I haven't.
I don't even do piles of corn anymore. I mean, last year when the number one got hurt, maimed, I was spreading it over 4 acres by hand, just throwing it out, just trying to make it so he didn't feel pressured coming in and putting his head down next to, another buck or something like that. I was just trying to make it like a browsing situation to make him feel comfortable come out. He never did, but that's
I've got a question for you guys, if you're cool with it. Yeah, and it might be a little off topic, but it's the same private land thing. I wanted to talk about it tonight's episode, or podcast, I should say. How much property are you guys losing every year? And maybe this is more of a question for Nick, because I shouldn't say that. Caleb, I know that you guys have, your places that you hunt, but, somebody that's more like knocking on doors, like I find myself losing property left and right, and it's nothing from what I do.
0 for me.
So a long time ago, we used to, everything down south we lost. Down in Millersburg, Guernsey, the Holmes,
Knox,
Warsaw.
Holmes County,
we lost all that years ago when
the
leasing boom came through 10 years ago, and but since then I've been fortunate to where my main 300 has always been good.
Is that leasing, or is it just is it just permission?
It's a weird story, but
you don't have to get into it.
It's permission.
It's locked down,
but it's locked in. Like there's no way we would ever lose it unless ownership is transferred. So that's like a rare, super good thing. Like spoiled with that. I mean, to get your main farm locked in. Other than that, we have growing up, my parents didn't have no land. Our family didn't own no land.
You wanted to hunt your parents' land that one time, and I was just not about it.
I should have.
You probably should have.
5 acres.
I don't think you-
212-inch buck.
I don't think you would.
So, but here, let's. That's a moral thing, though. Like, I did not hunt it. I put a stand up, 212-inch buck. My dad has 7 acres. My family owns all the way down to the line to where that deer was bedding. I know the guy that he was bedding on, and I know the guy that he was going to, and I'm in the middle. I know I could have hunted next to the guy at the other end, and I could have hunted next. It's where I grew up. I didn't ask a single person for permission. It was, if I'm gonna kill him, it'd be on my dad's. But that's a
one trail camera video, which is awesome. And yeah, I think you lost it.
No, I got it.
You still have it?
Broad daylight, the day before he
But
died.
you still have it?
Yeah, I found it a couple months ago.
Dude, I don't know. I probably would have went after that deer, to be honest.
I mean, that is the biggest deer that's ever been
But
killed in our county.
these two were hard after him. So it was like
your neighbors were.
Yeah. The guy at this end and the guy at this end. So where he's bedding and where he's feeding were hard on him.
Gotcha.
So it was like, I'm not going to be that guy to go and. I mean, I could have.
I understand.
I could have filled the whole line between them.
And we only knew of them because of those guys. They kind of let slip.
Yeah. But back to your question, I haven't. Outside of stuff that's far away, like the personal stuff I've had, I've gotten lucky. I've never lost it.
Well, that's why you're here, Matt. Because your opinion's a little bit different than ours.
Yeah. Well, no, I guess I just wanted to touch base on that side of the private. Is like, I feel like most of this podcast has been just a bash towards private. There's a lot of pluses that probably we should have got into, but
this entire room is the plus.
Yeah, I mean, we've all killed a lot of good deer.
Yeah.
That's the plus, But like, I swear on my life, I cannot keep a property for more than like 3 years.
Well, and that's the difference between where
it's so frustrating.
Like you're getting on the door knocking permission. We're on the personal relationship permission.
Yeah.
So like, if you came over and we're hunting and I'd, say I had a family member growing up and now they want to hunt, well, it's easy for me to say, well, I don't really know him, Matt. No more hunting. It's easy, but I've just been super lucky to retain what I've had. I mean, the biggest piece, it's been probably 17 years of no interruption. So I mean,
that's nice.
We do know also though that as much as we love that piece, it probably makes up literally of our content online. It probably makes up a third of our content is that piece and all this great deer. And we do know that it will not last forever.
Yeah,
we are aware that it will not last forever. So we, we're in a position where, two of my best friends and guys on our crew hunt it, and we spend as much time doing stuff over there as we can because it's such an awesome piece, and it's things like that just don't last forever because we don't own it. I mean, it'd be nice to find a way, but you got 3 or 4 million.
Not in today's price.
Kind of going off of what you're saying, I'm gonna leapfrog. Do you guys feel that there will come a time in the very near future where you either have to own or lease ground?
Oh yeah, I mean that's where it's heading now.
Yeah,
I mean it's it's becoming pay to play.
Yeah,
that's your property's an investment property per se.
Yeah,
the one that you actually own, that 35 that we talked about that you own in your name, that's an investment property for the future.
Yeah, so
it's a known chess piece.
Yeah, it's we're heading towards pay to play. I mean the everybody's gotten so sick of not being able to get permission that they're willing to pay anything.
Yeah.
And until that backs down, and it doesn't help that Ohio's known to be such a big buck killing state because now you got, I heard over the winter a guy from North Carolina was leasing a piece in Warsaw area, and he was paying, almost $30,000 annually to lease this piece.
Yeah.
And it's like,
to me, I love deer hunting as much as anyone in the world. But that's not possible to even
to
play
him,
with those numbers.
Obviously to him it is, but like to the average guy, it's not worth it.
You know what? If it got to that point, I would be looking at public land within,
3-4 hours,
or within where could I shift with work and who has public land.
You have always thrown it out there, like every once in a while.
If it's Kansas, Missouri, or Iowa, okay, then
Yeah.
let's pack it up and we'll go live near a piece of public and do it that way.
Yeah.
If we end up losing everything that we could hunt, like as our group, if we ended up losing to where we, we're lucky because a lot of us own some land and have land in our family names and stuff, so it shouldn't happen. But if it did, or we were down to, it was getting real rough, I would do, and we already kind of have some ends, but like where Dylan's cabin is in Pennsylvania and like those areas of Indiana, I would look into just buying a small piece.
Yeah.
Like in Indiana where we hunt, or down in Kentucky in those areas we're going, I would look into just buying a small piece for
that
cheap.
borders it or something.
Yeah, that's just in the area.
Yeah.
And then build my camp, and then, you'd have to just spend the fall kind of working public land only, but that would be, because you're not going to be able to afford in Ohio anything that's worth a damn.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just not.
Well, the
When land's
public,
at $20,000 an acre.
Yeah,
there's
it's
better
insane.
public land to be hunted out there than
Yes.
what's offered in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll say about private land is it changes your goals, your goals for what you're going to harvest, not your expectations, but like your goals.
Yeah.
The when you're on private, you have the luxury of, previous year's experience, what kind of is around, what could be around. You have the history with the deer, so that changes everything for you,
Yeah,
hunting wise.
when we go on our trips, like that deer right there that Isaac killed that's on the wall above you, that was an Indiana buck. You were there for that, Matt.
Yep.
That deer walks by me in Indiana, I'm shooting.
I'm plugging him.
But
yeah.
I've passed that deer here in Ohio
multiple times.
100 times.
But the problem is the neighbor shoots him.
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
problem.
Like we talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the difference right there between Ohio, public land and private land, is those two deer. But
Yeah.
it also, I want to bring up the point that when you have your private land that you know of and you've hunted it, more than the 2 or 3 years Mac has hunted, but if you've been like us and you've hunted your private land 5, 10 years, 20 years, you know what's going to happen, and you also know what could show up and what can't show up. So that deer, that deer Isaac shot last year, 137, 138, 4-year-old deer, that we knew that was one of the better deer that we were going to get any opportunity at.
Yeah.
And Isaac had no hesitation on taking that deer.
Yeah.
Now, some people are going to be like, oh my God, private land in Ohio, like you should kill 150 every year, 160,
Well,
170. Well, there ain't none of those around here right now.
People have a bad expectation, or I don't know how to word
Because
it.
of TV and YouTube.
They think that there's a 150-inch deer around every tree. That's not the case.
No, it's not. It used to be.
And you've talked about this on your podcast quite a bit, but I'll highlight it. Say there is a 150-inch deer in the block of timber. There's 30 other guys that are also hunting that. You mentioned it a lot in your podcast about like there's not enough mature deer to go around.
There's not.
And it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It starts with turkeys. There is not enough gobblers for even anyone to kill a gobbler.
There's not enough gobblers for us three.
So then
Farm.
and then that translates to deer hunting. If you want to kill that deer, 157-inch 10-point, there's only one, and there's 100 guys in the area hunting.
Yep.
That might be a slight exaggeration, but maybe there's 3
Not
and there's
much,
30
yeah.
guys hunting. That means 27 guys, if all 3 are killed, aren't killing them.
Yeah.
And year in and year out, you got to play those numbers. I mean, they're just not there.
And you've kind of ragged on me quite a bit about my expectations, my expectations of deer season kind of going down.
Off air, I had.
Yeah. And you can put this on record. It probably will, because unfortunately, and what we were just talking about losing ground, there will come a point where it's like I've always wanted to chase that like next level deer, and for the last 10 years I've been fortunate enough to wheel and deal, try to get do whatever I can to find a deer of that caliber to chase, but like I'm getting tired of it. Like I truly am getting tired of the grind.
If it takes your joy away,
it is.
Then what's the point?
It is, because we all of us sitting here know that even if you're the best hunter in the world, it's going to take you 2 to 3 years to figure a property out fully. You can't do it. You just can't do it in 1 year. And the problem is and I'm sure a lot of guys can relate to this. This is why I'm bringing it up. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to start to settle down with, I shouldn't say settle down with my wife, but we're thinking about having kids. I'm almost 30. Like the knocking on doors and grinding, it's got to come to a stop. And plus, it's not possible anymore. Like you were saying about down south, the leasing.
Nope.
Dude, go down south and try to knock on doors.
Yeah,
Knox County, Holmes County, all that. It's impossible.
If you don't drag your checkbook up the driveway with you, they ain't talking to you.
It's like,
I know Nick's gonna have a smart comment here, but this is my night for the week to do any of this.
To do any of it.
To do any, just so you know. And I know Nick's got 2 daughters that are older than mine, and I'm just new at this. But like, just so you know, Matt, like,
I know.
this is my night,
and that's why I'm bringing this up
for the whole week to do any of this stuff.
I'm not going to take the opportunity away from my wife to have kids because that's always been her dream. As much as I'll tell anybody that I don't want kids, I'm not going to take that away from my wife. So that means that, say I give her 2 or 3 kids, whatever God may bless us with, my time has to be, I have to refocus my life on what's important and put priorities first, which is your kids and family over hunting. So the hundreds and hundreds of hours I spend, year round knocking on doors, traveling here, doing this, it's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone, man.
So it's good that you're realizing this early.
It's weird because it all shifts. So you learn to prioritize your time. I work a lot. I hunt as much as I can, but you burn the wick as much as needed. So like, you'll find the time to make the kids priority. I mean, my kids, I come in the house, they're like, "Did you shoot the big buck?" 99% of the time you gotta say, no, your dad sucks.
Yeah.
He didn't shoot the big buck. But when you call them and you say, "I shot the big buck,"
I bet it's a rush.
They're super excited.
Yeah.
I didn't want a redneck until I think my kids were 5 and 4. And we go, they know, early season Sundays, we're going to the redneck.
That's cool.
So they're up there, they got camo bibs on, and it's 100 degrees in that damn thing.
Yeah.
Windows are open. They both got binos. They're just looking around.
Yeah.
I don't care, but they have fun doing that,
yeah.
But they know when it gets cold out, Dad's going hunting,
Yeah.
But you prioritize your time. You're not going to. You'll sacrifice somewhere else so you can still have the hunting time, so you can still have the kid time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nick's feeling it because I didn't do any food plotting or anything on his farms this spring.
It's funny because out of hunting season, we don't see Nick ever. This is the first time I've seen Nick since he killed his buck.
And I don't expect it. Yeah, I don't expect him to come hanging out here in the summertime because he's got 2 kids, 2 daughters and all this.
Yeah.
I expect to see Nick October 1st through, December. And then after that, it goes back to family. And that's just the way it's going to have to be.
I guess just to kind of backtrack, I was just trying to make the point of like, going back off the leasing or owning thing. Like, unfortunately, if you were as serious as we are about hunting, you have to have a property that's 100% locked in your name somehow.
Yes.
Because, I can't, what I'm getting at is for the average guy knocking on doors, it's the game's dead. It's not possible anymore. You cannot consistently kill big deer by knocking on doors. It's not possible anymore unless you do the urban thing. But there's a million different
That's the reason I had you guys come today. Right there, what you just said. You can't be going around hunting private land and just expect to kill 150-inch deer every year.
No,
it's not as easy
it's not possible.
as they make it look to be.
No.
That's exactly what we did this podcast for.
No. The urban guys, they make it look way easier than it is.
And I'm not going to knock those guys because, like, they're still grinding. I mean, like, they're knocking on probably more doors than I do a year, but, like, it's just not something that I'd be interested in. I've always joked around with you about, like, I'm going to go urban this year because I want to kill a 190. And it's like, when push comes to shove, I'm like, I'm not hunting some old lady's bird feeder behind her house. You know?
Yeah, sitting in a your blind is a rhododendron, and you got corn at the bottom of her kid's slide. So,
I think people would be surprised. Your average listener, your average YouTube watcher, your average deer hunter on social media, I think they would be surprised at how many of these 170 plus inch deer have been killed within city suburb limits. Every year in Ohio, I would venture to say, I know this sounds crazy, but I would say 80% of them are killed in those situations.
Or like bordering like a metro park.
Well, look at the contests that we've run. Medina County Hunters on there. It's been 10, 12 years we've been running this contest. This is the first year. So last year, the 2023 season was the first year that one of a couple certain teams that always win hasn't, a new team won per se. All the deer that had won in past years, like the average score for the winning team was around 150.
Yeah.
150, 145, 155.
And this is 3 guys on a team.
Yeah, and,
Three
and
guys
it's the
on a team.
same. It was always the same 7 or 8 guys involved with the winning teams, and they had beautiful country lots like we talk about, like a farm like Nick's.
Yeah.
But your average is in the 150s, and those are the deer that are winning these contests. This year, we had some city hunters get involved, some suburb hunters, and the average jumped up to like 180 something. They had 2 teams, and both their teams were first and second, with a score in the the average was in the 160s and 180s. The winning team was average of 180s, and it was suburb deer because you can't expect to kill deer like that out here.
No, it's not possible.
Ever.
Well, we were talking about it last year in the chat. We got 16 guys in the chat, or 12 guys, however many. And we're like, when was, outside of the 200 I was talking about earlier, across the 16 of us, when was the last time anybody had a 200?
Yeah.
And everybody is like crickets. And now everybody in that chat runs cameras all year long.
Oh.
Some of those guys bait 365.
Yeah. I mean,
Nobody
could
can come up with it. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know the last time I had a 180 on camera. The 200. The 200 was the last time I had a deer over 180.
I know.
Don't.
We'll leave it at that. But it's funny because that group you're talking about, that's the group, and if you're a Medina County Hunters listener, you're going to know the group we're talking about. They're famous. And that group of guys, us included with them, every year they're killing 150s, 160s. All those guys, their biggest deer are right around, they're all around 170. Walker, his biggest deer, I think, is like 167. Pavlik's 167. Kasich, 172. All these guys, they're, outside of Dylan's 201 and Luke's 199, those are the only 2 deer over 172. And that's 12 guys, 12 to 16 guys, 20 years of hunting each in a chat. And that's a lot of hunting. A lot of guys that will go to crazy lengths to kill giant deer. But 160, if you kill 160, that's doing
a giant.
That's doing it. I mean, that is
giant.
doing it.
Well, so private, your challenge is finding the deer. Maybe getting the permission, but finding the deer. In the urban, it's getting the permission.
Yeah, because I can tell you, I know where, you know where a 180 lives, a 200. Every year we know of where a certain deer, I'm not using specific examples, but every year we know where on a local Facebook group or this or that or blah, 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 where someone posts a picture in the city by us where there's 180, 190, 200-inch deer. So we know where they're at. It's a matter of getting to that deer.
Yeah. And I think that's a tactic that the urban guys use.
Yeah.
To find their deer.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not a way that I'm not going to go out there competing with you with my checkbook and my promises and my I'll do this for you to try to get an attempt at a 180-inch city deer because I don't care that much about it. I mean, I've never cared about a deer more than any deer in the world than that one right there, and I didn't even get to kill it. And
or tag it.
Yeah. Thanks, by the way. Technically, Nick owns that mount.
Isaac says it best, though. He says, I like waking up in my bed, walking 1.5 miles in the woods, and killing a 137-inch deer. He'll do that all day long, every year, for the rest of his life.
Right before we took our break, I was actually going to bring it up with your point. I wish Isaac was here because when it gets to the point of door knocking 100 times or dumping 10,000 pounds of corn, or whatever it is you have to do to try and kill some giant deer, that's when it would be great to have Isaac in the room. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, at the end of the day, do you really care? Like, he just shoots that every year, and he loves it. And why do we care?
You're saying, why do we care about a big deer?
No, a number. Like
what's
the difference between 137, 147, 152, 167,
an inch number?
Yeah, we put.
I don't know.
We put so much on the inches, but like,
I have
what's
the
difference?
Like, I'm not getting excited unless he is mature and he's north of mid 40s.
Yeah.
Is this a good time to bring up Ryan's encounter with the guy at the store the other day? One of our listeners.
Oh yeah, that's a good time.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's a good time. Go ahead and bring it up.
What happened?
One of our guys that's on the podcast sometimes.
He was in Nashville.
Yeah, he was in Nashville, and he ran into some guys that we know from up here that were down in Nashville. he's like, oh man, we listen to Deer Shot podcast, blah blah blah. He's gonna know who I'm talking about when I'm talking, but he's like, you guys it's like, I love that you guys aren't all like Nick, because I mean that son of a bitch, he's always just waiting for the big ones. You guys just need to kill good deer. Like, who cares,
No, he didn't say that. He said no, he didn't. No, that's not what he said.
That was the good version of it.
No, he said Nick kills the big deer. Why don't the Simons do that?
No, that's not what
bullshit. Call Freeman right now.
Freeman will be on in a couple weeks. He'll be on the reaction.
He'll be able to
podcast.
clear it up. But I think it was you, and you're like, oh no, don't stroke Nick's ego or something.
That's exactly what I said. Nick's ego does not
he,
get any bigger.
He gave it the PG version.
No, he didn't say why don't you guys hold out like Nick. He said you guys don't need to hold out like Nick.
No, he didn't say that.
That's what he said.
No, he didn't.
I can't kill a big buck anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Your biggest deer's right there.
I mean, everybody can hunt how they want, but I will eat a tag versus shooting a 4-year-old 140 or 130.
Didn't we just tell a whole entire story about a crossbow and a
I'm still
beach tree blind?
I'm not even convinced that deer was 4. I think he was 5.
Well, I'm not going to debate the age. I thought his body in October, he could have been anything. He was.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
was amazing how much weight he lost from October to January.
That deer killed my soul because it went against it. But I've gone plenty of years tag soup, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm at 2 for Ohio.
I didn't kill one last year.
I'm at 2 for Ohio.
But like, I've been pretty fortunate. You had asked the question like how many people were chasing a 200. Like, maybe it's a godsend, but for the last couple of years, I've been able to get on something that's like 180 north. But
wow,
but it's like,
no wonder you knock on 100 doors. I commend you.
But that's the thing. Like, and you know how I was talking about earlier in the podcast. Like, if somebody screws up and says, and not one of my friends or someone that I know, but some random stranger screws up and is like, hey, so and so's got this, 100 and whatever big deer. See a picture of it, and you're like, holy moly. I'll go and investigate that area.
We'll investigate it on social media. We'll investigate it within our group chat. But I'm glad you brought this up because that's something that we don't do. It's not that we wouldn't want to do that, and maybe if we had really good intel, we would try. But we're pretty married to where we hunt.
Yeah,
and we're hunting the best deer to where we're married to.
Well, and he's never had that,
right?
To where I mean, now that he's got his own ground and he's putting it all in, the marriage will happen. But we've never been not married to our farm. So like,
I'll show you a video.
You go and you leave that. It feels like you're cheating. Like you're cheating on your wife.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right. Nothing. And like the other buck that's in question we've been talking about the last couple of days that I've had, we know where to go ask, but I'm not going to do it. Good Lord.
How come Nick gets to see it before I do? That's what I want to know.
Oh, my. I've never had anything like that. Ever. I'm starting to sweat.
It looks like the deer.
What deer?
At the banquet. Not the banquet, at the fairgrounds that we got showed.
Yeah, we'll talk. I'm going to talk to Matt off screen about that. That's not something that's willing to talk about on screen.
To be honest, that was not honey. So that was a deer that I was chasing the year before honey.
Closer to us?
He went 208. That deer.
He got killed?
He got killed by the
Was
neighbor.
it closer to us?
No. So that's the other thing. This was
that deer that
This was an hour and a half south of here.
Yeah.
Like, I'll travel anywhere for a big deer.
That deer that I think I showed you. I did show you that deer did I tell you about a deer? That's off. We're going to talk about that off
air.
Yeah. The audience doesn't need to know about that yet. We'll tell them about it when it happens, but I'm going to end it. I guess we'll probably end the on-air part. And I have a question. I asked it to Jason, and he stuck to his guns, but I'll ask you guys. If money wasn't an option, you knew you could buy 100 acres, and it was guaranteed. Would you buy that acreage surrounded by suburban? Would you buy that acreage right out here, surrounded by farmland and private ground? Or would you buy that acreage 100% surrounded by public?
So go ahead if you want to answer it first.
You go ahead. You were sorry. You had the big sigh. Go ahead and...
No, as much as I enjoy public, I don't think I would want to deal with the hassle of public, of people just walking through it. Because you know that if you're in the middle of public and own 100 acres, everybody else is gonna think that that's public as well. So for the rest of your life of owning that, you're gonna have to deal with trespassers. Don't like that idea. So it breaks down to the city versus country for me. The only reason why I'm hesitating on city is because of what we were just talking about. In order to kill the upper class deer anymore, you have to go to suburban. It seems like, I'm not saying that you have to, I'm just saying that if you want an opportunity at a big deer every year that's pushing that 180 mark, it seems like you have to go to suburban. But I don't think I could do it. I think I enjoy hunting country too much. It's my tactics. I love the farm ground. I love the timber. I think that it would be fun to manage your own 100 acres and make it what you want.
I do 100 acres in country. And it wouldn't even be so much for the hunting. I mean, it would be. It would be for the hunting.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot you can add to that.
But there's so much more you could bring to it. You could have family hunting camp during gun week. Yeah. You could do, and I don't even like gun hunting. But that's what I would do it for opening day or the weekend or extend gun, whatever. You know, there's so many more perks if you had 100 acres in the country than the city stuff. Or, you know, if I would buy land by public, but it wouldn't be, 100 acres. It would be 3 acres.
It'd be 3 acres with a cabin.
Yeah, we talked about that, like Dylan's Pennsylvania property and
something like that.
Out in Indiana, like I would buy that. Like if I had the opportunity to buy that cabin we stay at in Indiana,
I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
I would. Not even a question. I would buy that.
Yeah.
Not even a question.
Yep.
I don't know what it would go for, but
it can't be much more. I mean, can't be any worse than around here. $20,000 an acre. I mean, that's insane.
No, I know for a fact it's not that much.
That's what I'm saying.
Where we live is probably, and people, there might be some people in California or New York, they're going to laugh at 20,000 because there's $1 million an acre. Yeah. But ours is substantial compared to everyone else. But
back in 2015, this area was selling for like $6K an acre.
Oh my God!
$5 to $6K an acre.
Well, it's never going to get any cheaper. So if anybody's on the fence, just do it. Because I promise you, it's never going to get any cheaper.
I'm not going to answer the question because I have one more podcast about this kind of stuff, and I'll talk about it probably in the reaction. But I will say that I probably would not buy land here.
No.
Now,
I wouldn't either.
If I had an opportunity.
No.
Significant amount of land right here in this area, I probably wouldn't do it.
I'd go down south.
I wouldn't do it for hunting. I would do it for an investment, but that's not the question. So
yeah, I'll
hold my answer on that. We have a lot of stuff we want to talk about off the air, so I'm going to turn off the microphones here in a second. We're at 2 hours.
Holy fuck!
We have done 2 hours of
wrap
podcast.
It up.
Nick says that he doesn't like our half-an-hour podcast because they're too short for a day-long listen. So now you have a 2 hour one to listen to, and I hope I didn't. I tried not to interject too much on my end this time, so I hope you
did better.
I hope I did okay.
It was all right. It was 50-50 instead of 75-25.
As a podcast host, Matt, do you know anything about that?
No, I truly understand what you're talking about.
It's tough.
Because you have to lead the conversation. You have to, there was multiple times where I ended my conversation and just looked at you like, what's next?
You're right. And that's, you don't want there to be the weird pauses.
Yeah.
There was a lot. Yeah. We'll get there.
I understand.
Yep. We'll get there. All right, guys, that's episode 48, country deer hunting. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. It's going to be a good one. And Deer Shot Podcast is out.
Peace.